Hello, everybody. I'm here to do another talk on some topics that people are very interested in these days, and I have my friend to help me here again. So let's just get started.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Seems we're seeing a global awakening. It's a hot topic of late. Could you talk about that and the shift as well, which I guess goes hand in hand with it?
Yeah, so the global awakening and the shift. A lot of people have woken up to the realization that there is way more to the world than what we see. You know, they're waking up to more of their spiritual selves. And simultaneously, we see a lot of chaos going on in the world. And some people might find that frightening and wonder, is this the end, Ragnarok, and so on. I think this is not new to many people listening. We did end a very long cycle with the Mayan calendar ending in 2012, which I'm sure also many people know, a 25,000 year cycle. So the shift that's happening is that we're moving away from the old paradigm of a very patriarchal society and world with many structures that are rigid or have become rigid and are no longer serving our highest best interest. Examples here would be obviously financial institutions, the banks, corporate companies, where it's like the elite at the top have it good and the bottom man or woman are not enjoying the same benefits. So it's an unequal, hierarchical, that's the word I never am able to say, society that has been in place, and the shift is moving to the, let's call it matriarchal society of equality, and in that sense a horizontal kind of leadership style versus the man at the top, right? We are working more together as equal colleagues, for instance, and women, of course, claiming more their place next to man as equals. So the chaos we see is you could call it birthing pains of Mother Earth, birthing this new age and this new frequency or consciousness that we are ascending into as we move through the photon belt. But I'm not going to get too spacey here in my description, but one thing I do want to say to explain it is astrologically, Pluto is currently in Capricorn and has been for a number of years. And Pluto is the planet that represents death and transformation and rebirth. So wherever Pluto is, that area is being very, very deeply transformed. And because it's in Capricorn, these are all of these towers or systems, structures that are rigid, as I said, that are now crumbling. That's what we're seeing. That's why it's chaotic. And in 2023, Pluto will move into Aquarius, which is not an earth sign, it's not material, it's an air sign. So we will see great transformation in our belief systems, our ideals, our values. It's going to be completely different. So for the next 5 years, seeing these changes happening is a good thing. They're not to be feared. It's part of this birthing process. And those who have already awakened can help other people who might be in fear to understand that this is a natural thing happening and we're moving in the right direction. That's the shift, kind of in a nutshell.
Thank you. On an individual level, what are some things people can do to help themselves and others with this shift?
Right. Well, people need to start taking better care of themselves, first and foremost. This brings me to a whole topic of self-love, which we might talk about later today or another time. But what I'm reminded of is, Michael Jackson's song, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. And that's kind of where we have to do it. And again, this is something, it's not new. People know this. But what does that mean? How do you start with yourself if you don't know what to change? Obviously, meditation is a wonderful tool for clearing your mind and thought patterns. I recommend that strongly. If you eat every day, you should also meditate every day, preferably morning and evening. But more importantly is just learning how to find a way to be at peace with yourself. For some people, maybe meditation isn't their thing. They'll go have a nice long walk in nature. It's wonderful. Maybe they find peace and calm in their mind when they're rigorously working out at the gym. We all have different ways to roam, so to speak. But finding that inner peace is crucial, because when we are at peace, then that's the best way to help others. We will then be emitting peace rather than emitting the chaos we feel inside and contributing to the outer chaos around us. So, because we are one, this is really important. Everything that we do or omit to do will affect the whole. And I know people know about oneness because it's something that has been talked about, and we understand scientifically now how we're all interconnected, we're all one. But to really grasp it and know it is more than just a mental thing. Yeah, we're one. You think it. Knowing it really truly means you experience others' pain as your own. You experience other people's joy as your own. They are you and you are them, right? So that being said, because we're one, the more you work on yourself, it's not selfish. It's, if anything, it's selfish with a capital S. You're working on yourself, not your ego, right? The ego is what you're working on to transform to become yourself with capital S, higher self. That affects the whole. You doing that work on yourself is the best way to contribute to helping others. Right now, the way I feel the collective body of humanity as such is as turbulent waters. If you imagine, let's say you've been washing dishes by hand, right? And the water becomes murky after a while from the dirty dishes. So it's more like a grayish soup. This is the way the emotional body of humanity is currently. It's not at all purified or clear. We are struggling with unresolved emotions, guilt. We feel guilt for basically having destroyed the planet once before in Atlantis times, right? Abusing power. We feel guilt on an individual level, thinking, oh, I should have done better with this and this person or that. We feel shame, fear, anger, all of these murky emotions. And because we feel them, that is part of the collective emotional body of humanity. So everybody will feel them. So the work you do to clear your own emotions and purify your astral waters, so to speak, your emotional body, the more you are then a purifier for those around you and anywhere you might be. And the same would go also for mentally. If you are struggling with a lot of doubts and thought patterns that hold you back, then you are contributing to a more pessimistic mental body collectively than if you were always staying in an optimistic state, always intending for the best, not even hoping, because hope can be quite powerless. You don't need hope. You need to intend, determine, decide, use your mind actively, right? So what comes beyond the mind? You enter the spiritual realm, where you then do the opposite of determine and decide and focus, and you just let go. You release. And that is part of the void, which I will also address later. Part of that no mind state, right? Where you can relax and where the divine can come through to you. So to answer your question, what you can do, let's say people have, physical problems, no money, or they're always meeting a bunch of hurdles in their life, doors that just won't open. then I would say start on the physical plane, begin with your body, purify your body. The body is the temple, after all, of the spirit that is you. So if there's some kind of a trauma on the physical plane, maybe an injury or obesity, problems with your diet, change your diet, get active, work on the physical plane. And the same would be then for the emotional plane. If there's some scarring or pain that you're carrying, you won't be able to address that on the same plane it exists. Just like Einstein says, you can't, a problem cannot be solved from the same level that created it, right? So if there's an emotional problem that you're struggling with, you have to go one level up to the mental plane and look at what caused it. There's some thought pattern that is causing the emotional trauma. And the emotional trauma is probably having an effect on the physical body, right? If you're gaining a lot of weight, maybe it's because you are traumatized from a dominant parent or a narcissistic person in your life, and to shield yourself, you put on weight. You feel it shields you from that pain. That's one thing I think a lot of people experience. So you have to go one level up to the emotional plane to see how to improve your body. And an emotional pain has to be looked at from the mental plane. And any mental thoughts that you are struggling with, you would have to go to the spiritual plane to be able to process. And I will put in a diagram here to show you.
Could you please discuss the void and what that is?
Yes. So the void, Eastern traditions talk about enlightenment in different stages and also different ways of experiencing enlightenment. Satori, for instance, is sudden enlightenment. This could happen to somebody who might have taken some kind of psychedelics that have been beneficial for that particular individual. I'm thinking, mushrooms or hallucinogens that are not addictive and are just basically to help the brain rewire itself, open new pathways. And when it's done perhaps with a shaman, or in any case done seriously and ceremoniously, I think that can be quite beneficial for people, because the mind can often become quite stuck. So somebody doing that might experience Satori, like sudden enlightenment, and then things become colorful, vivid, there's a sense of bliss, and very often people don't go back. It changes their lives. Of course, they have to do the work to change their lives as well as a result of this, but it can be something that can last more than just that sudden experience if they pursue it and work on themselves. Then there's the Samadhi. That is another state which is more union with God. That's more of a constant state that people can achieve after years and years and years of meditation, or as a result of the cosmic consciousness that has now been given to the earth. People can kind of hitch a ride, so to speak, on this cosmic consciousness wave. They can wake up quite gradually and safely, and then again, by doing work on themselves with meditation, proper diet, proper exercise, and being in balance, they too can then experience Samadhi. So the void, when I talk about it, is another way to express these enlightenment states, but it's not about the light that people think of when they think of enlightenment. It's about that darkness before the light, as I mentioned in my previous short introduction. The darkness is that realm of space that is no mind, beyond the mind. It's nothing and it's everything. And Satori or Samadhi can be experiences of this state of no mind and just freedom in your mind. And that freedom in the mind is really key, because you're never really free until you're free within your thoughts, your mind, your thinking. That will translate to your entire being. You can be free anywhere. You could even be arrested and put in jail for years. But if you're free within yourself, then you're free. A lot of people are walking about so-called free, and yet they're totally trapped in their own thoughts and minds and are miserable. So this is why this is so important to understand when I talk about the void as this empty state of no mind. It's not something mystical or weird or, unnormal. It's something everyone can achieve that is going to bring about happiness. There's no clutter anymore. That spaciousness in your mind will translate to everything in your life. And talking about light versus dark here, it's kind of like if you imagine a tunnel, right, with light coming out of it. And we say, there's light at the end of the tunnel. When something is really bad, well, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But what comes after the tunnel? And I have an illustration to show you that in this particular concept, it's the light that comes out of the dark. So at the end of the tunnel is that darkness, the unknown, that territory that we can all find ourselves in and become one with the divine, with all that is, whatever you want to call all that is. And that's the exciting bit. So I will put that slide in here.
It seems like we all have to get comfortable with our own darkness.
Yeah, exactly. And not to fear darkness. Darkness isn't evil. It's just unconscious on one level, and on the level I'm talking about, it's immense. It's all that is, everything and nothing, limitless potential, peace in mind, no thoughts. It's just awesome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too. Good talk.